Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to break down a really powerful science-backed protocol for those times when you just feel completely mentally exhausted. And this isn't about willpower or just trying harder. This is all about neuroscience. You know that exact feeling, right? Where it's not that you don't want to do things, but it feels like your brain's battery is just totally at zero. It's a very real and, believe me, a very common place to be. And here is the most crucial thing to understand right from the start. If this is you, your brain isn't failing. It's not broken. It's actually in a predictable neurological state. Just think of it like a computer with way too many apps open and a completely full memory cache. It's not broken. It just needs a very specific kind of reboot. So, our first stop is a hard reset. I'm talking about clearing out the system's junk files and basically cooling down the overheated hardware. We have to start by creating the right biological conditions for your brain to even begin to recover.
So let me introduce you to your brain's amazing janitorial crew, the glymphatic system. See, all day long, your brain builds up all this metabolic waste, stuff like adenosine. This system's entire job is to flush it all out. But, and this is a huge but, it only works at full power when you're in deep sleep.
So how do we make sure this deep cleaning cycle actually runs properly? Well, the protocol is very specific. For a full 90 minutes before you plan to go to sleep, you have to eliminate all high-intensity visual stuff. That means no phones, no TV, no bright screens. This cool-down period isn't a suggestion. It's pretty much non-negotiable if you want to trigger that deep, restorative, glymphatic flush.
Okay, that's nighttime sorted. But what about during the day? You know, when your brain feels completely frazzled from all the constant notifications and noise and information? That's when you need something called a sensory fast. This image just perfectly illustrates the concept. You're intentionally putting your brain into a quiet, empty room to let all its sensory filters reset. And the protocol for this? It's so simple, but don't let that fool you. It's incredibly powerful. You just find a quiet, dimly lit room, and for 15 to 20 minutes, you do nothing. Seriously, no phone, no music, no podcasts, just stillness. This lets your brain shift from that high-alert beta state into a calm, restorative alpha state. It's literally cooling down your neural circuits.
All right, now that we've reset the hardware, it's time to upgrade the operating system. We're talking about the mental software that really governs our focus and our energy levels.
Now this is absolutely fascinating. The science behind that feeling of mental clutter, it actually has a name, the Zeigarnik effect. Every single unfinished task, every email you need to send, every call you need to make, it acts just like an open app running in the background on your phone, silently draining your cognitive battery all day long. So, the only way to solve this is to get those open loops out of your head. The mental task purge is a simple 3-step process. First, you do a brain dump. Write down every single little thing that's nagging at you. Second, you put that list somewhere you trust, like a notebook or a notes app. And third, and this is key, you perform the shutdown ritual.
And this, right here, this is the key to that whole ritual. At the very end of your workday, after you've looked at your list, you say this phrase out loud. I know it might sound a little silly, but it acts as a direct command to your prefrontal cortex. It basically gives it permission to stop working on all those tasks until morning.
You know when you're burnt out and even the simplest task feels like climbing a mountain? Yeah. That's a specific part of your brain, the anterior cingulate cortex, screaming that the effort cost is just too high. The fix for this is something called micro-winning. You break tasks down into ridiculously small steps. So instead of write the report, your new task is just open the laptop. Each tiny win gives you a little dopamine hit that starts to refuel the whole system. Every single day, you make thousands of tiny little decisions, and each one of them drains a finite supply of your mental energy, your ATP. That's decision fatigue. And to plug this cognitive leak, you have to automate the trivial stuff. Plan your meals for the week. Lay out your clothes the night before. Outsource these small choices so you can save your brain power for what really matters. And finally, let's talk about refueling the engine. Because look, a clean system and good software are totally useless without any fuel. This part is all about the biology of creating long-term, sustainable mental energy. And this is not just a metaphor. Mental exhaustion can be a literal energy crisis happening at the cellular level. These cells you see here, the astrocytes, they're responsible for supplying your neurons with fuel. When you're burnt out, they are depleted, and they need very specific nutrition to recover. So what does it actually mean to refuel your brain?
Well, it's about giving it the right raw materials, not just stimulants. We're talking about things like magnesium threonate, which is special because it can actually cross the blood-brain barrier, and omega-3s to help repair neural membranes. Keeping your blood sugar stable is absolutely key, and whatever you do, avoid the caffeine trap. Coffee just masks the problem, and it actually makes the underlying energy deficit even worse in the long run.
Now this is a real game changer. We think of rest as collapsing on the couch to watch TV, but that's what's known as passive rest. According to attention restoration theory, something called active rest is way more effective, and this involves being in environments of soft fascination, things that gently hold your attention without demanding any real focus. And this comparison on the slide just makes it crystal clear. Passive rest, like scrolling through social media, keeps your directed attention, that's your focus muscle, it keeps it engaged. But active rest, like a walk in a park or just watching water, it allows that focus center to completely power down. That lets your creative, default mode network engage, which is way more effective at clearing mental fatigue.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, from the cells in your brain to specific sleep protocols. So how do we put this all together to actually start feeling better? Well, it all really comes down to 3 core ideas.
It all comes down to these 3 core principles, the 3 R's. First, you reset your neural hardware with better sleep and sensory fasting. Second, you rebuild your mental operating system by closing all those open loops. And third, you refuel your brain's engine with the right nutrition and, crucially, the right kind of rest.
So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. You don't have to do everything all at once. Just start with one thing. Based on everything we've talked about, what is the one tiny little unfinished task? That one open loop that you can write down and efficiently close for the day right now.